The Sikh community is known for its valor, its bravery and its courage. Whether it was Guru Tegh Bahadur who fought the Mughal king Aurangzeb to protect the Kashmiri Brahmins, or the Sikh jawans who died in the battlefield protecting their motherland from enemy nations. The Sikh community is known for its large-heartedness and generosity and Sewa as well. From feeding the hungry to serving the sick, it is one of the tenets of Sikhism. Here's yet another historical evidence corroborating the Sikh pride and valor. The year? Well, it was back in early 19th century. The Sikhs have been an important, integral part of Singapore's political, cultural and ethnic landscape. Tall, muscular, with commanding personalities and a reputation for honesty and hard work, they took on the roles of bodyguards to the wealthy. They were known as the Jagas, Malay for gods, and were looked upon as the brave and the dependable. In colonial Singapore, statues of the Sikh guards were erected at the tombs of the wealthy, with the beards, turbans and the kirpan. In fact, these historical statues are now in the care of the National Heritage Board in Singapore. Visuals on your screens of these statues of these Sikh jawans, these Sikh bravehearts who were actually commended for their bravery, for their honest work and their physique, for which they were brought upon as bodyguards for the wealthy of Singapore. The point I'm trying to make at this point is the Sikh community, whether in India or across the globe, is venerated, is celebrated. And why are the reasons? The qualities of generosity, of bravery, of large-heartedness associated with the Sikh community. We'll try to understand this particular aspect of the community. There are a number of panelists who join me on the broadcast. Let's get in. Colonel J.S. Sodhi, he's a defense expert. Colonel J.S. Sodhi, I just narrated a small anecdote. It's coming in from Singapore, 19th century. But in the larger context, that's exactly what Sikhism stands for.
Jai Hind, Megha, it's an honor to be on NewsX once again. Well, you have rightly brought out the instances. Historically, the Sikh community has always risen up to the occasion. If we talk of independent India itself, Sikhs constitute 1.72% of the population. But if we go by the awards that the Sikh community has won in the Indian Army, I'll just give you the brief statistics. Out of the 21 Bravery Chakras awarded till date, which is the nation's highest award for gallantry during wartime, out of 21, 5 have been won by Sikhs. That is 24%. Out of Ashok Chakra, which is the nation's highest gallantry award during peacetime, till date, 86 Ashok Chakras have been awarded, out of which 36 have been awarded to non-military personnel and 50 to military personnel. Out of 50 military personnel, 7 Sikhs have been awarded the Ashok Chakra, which is 14%. So going by these statistics, you know what, it buttresses your point that the Sikh community has always risen to the forefront in defending the nation, and it is primarily because of 2-3 factors. One is their unflinching loyalty to the nation. One is their never say die attitude. The third is performing against undaunting odds. Megha, I am from the Bombay Sappers, which has a large number of Sikh troops in them. And in my entire service I've served with them, I can tell you with conviction that never has a Sikh soldier let down any officer who has commanded him. For the Sikh soldiers, it takes some time to understand the officer, and once he realizes this officer is going to lead me from the front, he will give up his life for him. He'll make a supreme sacrifice. So these are the traits which stand the Sikh community, and the number of awards which have been won, whether in the Ashok Chakra or the Bravery Chakra, speak for itself.
You're absolutely right. And General G.S. Uban, he is the former Special Frontier Forces Inspector General, and I would like to understand from him the sentiment emerges of a proud, courageous, brave Sikh, and how does the legacy of your Sikh community is carried forward generation after generation, whether it is the Sikh gurus, whether it is spirituality, whether it is about the large-heartedness and generosity of the Sikh community across the globe, or for that matter, being the war heroes that they have been and they will continue to be for generations together.
Well, thank you, Megha, for having me on your show. Both you and the previous speaker have really given a very fine chit to the Sikh community, and I wish to thank you for that. As far as I'm concerned, my father was a general in the Indian Army. He took part in World War II, and then he raised and commanded a special commando force and liberated the eastern part of Bangladesh. In fact, this force was poised for the capture of the port of Chittagong when the ceasefire was declared. I automatically, as you very rightly mentioned, we have this running in our veins and in our blood. I too joined the army, and I joined the same corps as my father had done. In the 1971 war, I took part in 4 physical attacks along with 1 para-commando. At that time, my father was commanding the Special Frontier Force, which, as I mentioned to you earlier, liberated the eastern part of Bangladesh. And then I was fortunate later on to command the same force as a general and take them to the Kargil war. So the attributes that you've given to the Sikh community in terms of bravery and loyalty and the Sewa and so on, I think there's quite a bit to do with inheritance. It has quite to do with family traditions. It has quite a bit to do with what we do in the army. And based on all these factors, and of course, our gurus who laid down certain principles enshrined in the Guru Granth Sahib, and it's based on these principles that we continue to function as a community. And I must say with pride that the Sikhs have performed well, not only in war, but in peace also. As you've seen during the recent problems that we had with COVID, the vast number of centers that they opened up, free of cost. Oxygen, whenever there was a problem, you had somebody going across and delivering the oxygen. At the same time, you realize that it was not only the Sewa on something which most of us do, but certain aspects of it which normally people wouldn't like to do. For instance, large number of people had died in their houses and there was nobody to cremate them. Mm-hmm. They went to those houses, got those bodies and took them to the cremation ground. I think there is something inscribed in us as a race, as a comm, of which I'm very proud. And I'm glad that you holding this show. If there's anything else you'd like to ask me, I'm available.
Absolutely. And we are very proud that you come on our broadcast and narrate to us the historical instances of bravery, of gallantry of your forefathers, of your family, who have given so much for the nation as well. I also have Air Commander Dr. Ashminder Singh Bahal. It is an important occasion today. It is the Prakash Purab, the 400th birth anniversary of the 9th Guru of the Sikh community today, Guru Tegh Bahadur ji. There is going to be the celebration that is going to be taking place at the Red Fort. Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself will be paying tribute, addressing the nation. And do you think at this juncture it becomes all the more important for the nation, its citizens and the entire world to know and commemorate the sacrifices that have been laid down by the Sikh community before independence and after?
Absolutely, absolutely. You are very right. First of all, I'm very thankful to you for inviting me to your great show and honoring the Sikhs, a great community which has always led from the front in every casualty, in every natural disaster that has taken place anywhere in the world. They come out in large numbers and they are leading from the front, providing free food, helping the people who are homeless, and trying to do Sewa in every form. And it essentially comes from 3 key principles of Sikhism. The first is Naam Japna. You will not believe, first thing we did today was to go to the Gurdwara and do our Naam Japna, primarily because Tegh Bahadur Simriye Ghar Naune Dawe Thain Sab Thain Hoye Sahai. And it is the Prakash Parv of one of our 9th and a great Guru, Tegh Bahadur, who was not only a scholar but a warrior. Very few know of his exploits of archery, very few know of his exploits of horse riding. He had written 115 hymns which are part of the Guru Granth Sahib, and they are still etched in our minds. But I would like to tell you a few things. It is not just India. And I'm very proud that our Prime Minister has decided to honor our 9th Guru today from the Red Fort. Remember, Red Fort, you have your Independence Day celebration. So it's a great mark of honor being given by the Prime Minister. The second thing, it's not just us, it is, if you remember the Battle of Sarigrahi, and in this battle, after the battle was over, 21 Sikhs, proved to be the final stand against 10,000 Pashtun tribesmen. They killed around 500 to 600 Pashtuns, and it got so delayed, the fight got so delayed. And this last stand has gone into the history books, and the UK Parliament gave it a standing ovation. And what is recorded in the British Parliament? And I quote them, "It is no exaggeration to record that armies which possess the valiant Sikhs cannot face defeat. Dev Shiva par mohe ahe shubh karmante kabo na daro aur so chahe laro, nischay kar apni jeet karo, nischay kar apni jeet karo." And the Sikh regiment's motto is nischay kar apni jeet karo. You have heard Guru Gobind Singh Ji. We are talking of 21 Sikh soldiers of number 1 battalion of 36th battalion, of this Sikh regiment, who said that we will fight till the last. And they fought till the last. In fact, Gurmukh Singh was the last, and he killed about 20 Afghans by the time he died, and he was actually burnt alive virtually. And it is not just them. You see everywhere, Sikhs in every battle have proved their mettle. My father himself has fought 1965 war and 71 war. He was also 62 emergency commission officer. And you see him till today at 85 years of age, he stands straight. And, we bow down in respect to him because we cannot really meet his eyes, as we have not done. I may have got a gallantry award, but that award was given to me for a very, very small thing, which anybody would have done in my place. But when we look at these Sikhs, and when we look at the Sikh soldiers and the Sikh army, I can assure you, the army that has Sikh soldiers, you do not require anybody. You remember the battle that took place in Lasse, in just north of France, against the Germans. Everybody had withdrawn. It was the Sikh soldiers, and 262 out of 289 died. But the Germans were virtually beaten black and blue. Any force in the world, any natural disaster in the world, you will find the Sikhs. In fact, we formed our own community during COVID, and you will be surprised to know that we were providing food. We were looking at which are the places. We were network of networks all over India to identify the beds, to identify the oxygen cylinders. And like my friend just mentioned, one of my friends, Shanti, he used to go to people's houses and pick up the dead bodies when the relatives were not willing to pick them up and cremate them. Mm-hmm. I think there is a great pride when Sikhs look at themselves, and I cannot match the valor of the Sikhs that has already been done. I can only look up to them and pray to God कि 1.25 लाख से एक लड़ाऊं, फिर ही गुरु गोविंद कहलाऊं.
Thank you so much, Air Commander Ashminder, for sharing those anecdotes and reiterating the story, the narrative, the legacy of the Sikh community, not just within India but across the globe. Major General Rupinder Singh, would you like to comment? Maybe share, your rich historic past and tell us more about the Sikh community and how we can take this legacy forward. There are ways by the commemoration, by the celebrations that are being done, whether it is at this point of time at the Red Fort, where the Prime Minister is going to address the nation on the 400th anniversary, which is the Prakash Purab of your 9th Guru, or for that matter, there are a number of these Gurdwaras that are being opened up, or for that matter, continuing to remember the sacrifices, whether it is the Jallianwala Bagh, or for that matter, things that have happened in Punjab and outside. How do we take the legacy forward?
Well, I must thank you for, including me in this show today. And I am really thankful to you and the NewsX team completely. And of course, my co-panelists who have given wonderful views, wonderful ideas, and how to go forward. I just want to mention one thing first. I myself am a 4th generation. like all my other panelists, we have been going through, and like you also mentioned in the beginning, that it is the generations that come by. And I must say, it's been an honor to be a fourth generation army officer in the Indian Army. My grandfather fought the Battle of Tiddim. He himself was in the 3x2 Punjab that time, which is presently in Pakistan. And he got a military cross himself. What I want to mention is there are a few qualities that are there in the Sikhs, which my co-panelists have also mentioned about. But three important things that I must refer to are independent spirit that is there in us. And that is in every Sikh gentleman who is there in the country or abroad. He knows how to take on things. Secondly, we are good learners and good innovators. Good learners and good innovators, even on the battlefield or on the other fronts. And finally, it is a tenacity. It is the tenacity which drives us. It is a devotion to our own community, which I feel has ensured that the 1% of Sikhs, say 1 to 1.2% of Sikhs in India, are really making progress all over the world. You see abroad, people, whenever they go abroad, they go with nothing, but they make empires for themselves. So that shows that they are tenacious and ensure that they work hard and they have the devotion to do that. I also would like to mention one very major factor. During World War II, we had two officers, though about the Battle of Salagram has been already mentioned. And in fact, the British Parliament in September 2021 has installed a 9-foot statue of Havildar Ishwar Singh, who was in the battle of, who was the platoon section commander of the Battle of Salagram, and who laid his life. But I would like to mention that even in World War II, we had wonderful, examples that were given. They were basically General Prem Bhagat, and of course, the Marshal of the Indian Air Force. The Marshal of the Indian Air Force, Arjun Singh. These two are iconic figures, I feel. And whenever, like I have been in the Army War College, and whenever we talk of leadership at any level, whether it is the junior leadership, we talk of these gentlemen. We talk of all these examples. We give these examples so that the youngsters of tomorrow learn from it. And I must mention, unless and until we make it, like you were very nicely putting it up in the NewsX India, unless and until it proliferates into the environment, I think we need to give it a push, and the youngsters need to look at it at that way.
Okay. Colonel Jay Sodhi, I would like this opportunity to raise the issue with you when it comes to this hate, this anger, this violence that is being committed against Sikh individuals, Sikh communities, whether it is in Pakistan or in the United States of America. I think in the last 24 hours, there has been an incident that has been reported from Pakistan where a Sikh community individual has been attacked. There were 2 more attacks that are taking place in the United States. How should we tackle this violence that is raising its ugly head?
These violence against the Sikhs which are happening in America or in Pakistan or in Afghanistan, I think our country, our leadership is doing phenomenally well. They are raising up the issue with the concerned governments. Our Indian embassies abroad are raising it with the concerned government officials of that country. I think our Indian government is doing very well to this, and our media is also repeatedly highlighting it, which itself shows that the country is alive to such a thing. And whenever even a small incident happens in any country abroad, it is highlighted, the concerned government officials are brought into notice. So it is very important that this tempo, this reporting should be maintained, so that not only Sikhs, anyone should not be affected, because we all are equal citizens in this world. We all have an equal right to live with dignity. And one thing more I would like to add, Megha, now that we are at, I'm the 7th generation in the army and the 3rd generation Corps of Engineer officer. On 14th of December 1991, when I was to pass out a day before, my parents came to Indian Military Academy, Dehradun, for my passing out parade, and my father asked me, "Are you happy joining the army?" I said, "What more best can I ask from God?" So, this spirit of dedication which is there in us, it is phenomenal, it is priceless, it is precious. it has no words, and that is why, like all the other esteemed co-panelists have rightly brought out, and you also brought out in your opening remarks, this community has proved exceedingly well, whether India or abroad, and these few incidents which happen in other countries against the Sikhs, well, they should be definitely taken up at the highest level, which is being done also. In fact, when our foreign minister went to USA for the 2+2 dialogue, he brought it up with the US government authorities. So I think the government is doing its fair share, is doing enough, and it is up to the other countries abroad, which they now have to they reciprocate and live it up and ensure that no Sikh is targeted on their lands anymore.
Absolutely.
May I, Megha?
Yes, please make a comment on this. Yeah.
You see, I just want to comment. It's been very rightly brought up by Colonel Sodhi about various issues. But you see, the country there where such actions are taking place, that country has to take note of. One.
Yeah.
Second thing is, the community as a whole, whether it is Canada or USA or anywhere, is actually prospering. And that is what the countries need to take note of. Mm-hmm. And once they take note of that, I'm sure, the largest truck operators in USA are Sikhs from Jalandhar. So my point is, what I want to highlight is that these gentlemen, the countries need to take it up and ensure that there is safety for our citizens abroad also. That is the Sikhs abroad also.
Absolutely. General G.S. Subban, would you like to make a comment on this? And another very sensitive issue that needs to be taken head on across the globe, whether it is in US, Canada or United Kingdom, is this terrorist organizations which utilize the name of pro-Khalistani activities that they conduct. They have these forums, they have these memorandums that are put forth, and Pakistan continues to take advantage of it, continues to fund and sponsor it. How should the Sikh community and nations across the globe need to come together to fight this terrorism out?
Well, you will always have fringe elements who want to take advantage of certain situations and so on. But let me tell you, the vast majority of the Sikh community does not cater for these kind of ideas.
Yeah.
We have the vast number of members of this community are highly nationalistic, and as you are fully aware, whatever they do is for the nation and for their community. Now, for instance, one method of lowering this kind of anger against people abroad is that we have this groups of ours who go all over the world distributing free food, medicines, and so on. Whether it is in Syria, whether it is in Ukraine now, they've gone there also.
Yeah.
So the message that the community spreads is one of love. It's not one of hatred.
Absolutely.
And I think that is one major method in which we can tell it to the world that we are a peace-loving community who works for others, who are doing Sewa all the time, and over a period of time, the other communities will understand this. So when you talk about...
I think the other communities across the globe understand this really well. And rightfully mentioned, there are these fringe elements now taking advantage, undue one at that, and then maligning the religion, maligning the community, maligning the people, thereby maligning India as well. Air Commander Dr. Ashbinder, would you like to jump into it?
Absolutely. First of all, I agree with the General that there are very few such fringe elements which are encouraged by a great friend Pakistan from across the border, who spends no efforts towards bringing the countries closer. Instead of that, it continues to foster enmity within the communities, so that they know that if Sikhs can be taken towards the fringe element, then the country would suffer. But this is known to all the Sikhs, and therefore the majority of the Sikhs do not and are not part of any such activity. There are 3 countries where you find these activities still taking place. One, of course, is Pakistan. Second is England, and third is Canada. But I can assure you that whichever gurdwaras that they target, most of the gurdwaras, especially in the US, I have seen myself, they were giving langar to South Indian students who come for IT-related studies or IT-related jobs. I was present when the Granthi requested the South Indian students in New York, may I request you to please at least, matha take lo Gurdwara mein before you go and have the langar, because those guys didn't have money to even have food, because they were only busy in doing their studies. Now, what I want to highlight here is very clearly that the number of such people are very limited. That majority of the Sikhs are truly loyal. In fact, it is not us who have recognized this. The Britishers recognized this in 1845-46 when they fought the wars, Anglo-Sikh wars. And such was the fierce fighting by the Sikhs, and so much of death and destruction took place on the Britishers that they said that we must get, because Punjab was the last state to be annexed after Maharaja Ranjit Singh had died, and it was the last state to be annexed, and they had said that we must make them part of the Bengal army at that time, because it was a British East India Company. So I just want to say one highlight here, one thing I want to highlight here, they understood and they recognized the loyalty and fierce loyalty of the Sikhs, and that is why the first 11th battalion of the Sikh regiment was formed, if I remember right. The General Sir will stand by me. And I'm very proud of that Sikh legacy.
Well, it is not just you who's proud of the Sikh legacy, it is the entire nation that is proud and indebted to the sacrifices that have been made by the Sikh community for the country and its countrymen. I quickly thank all my panelists for joining me on the broadcast, sharing their experiences, their history, their legacy with us all. It is the 400th anniversary of the 9th Sikh Guru of the Sikh community. We are talking about Guru Tegh Bahadur ji, and there is going to be a mega celebration at 9 p.m. at the Red Fort that is going to be addressed by the Prime Minister himself.